welcome back to the Shade Tree Garage channel, guys. And today I wanted to I'm going to touch on another YouTube content creator's Try 5 content, and share with you my own experience. YouTube content creator channel Restoring Christine. It's about a man who's getting his '56 Chevy. I think it's a two-door hardtop in resto mod condition, and it's a beautiful '56, bright red and white. Now the interiors looks beautiful. It's just a gorgeous car in and out. He's done a great deal of work. Now, the video of his that really helped me when I got my '56 wagon was he did a wonderful video about the glass in a two-door hardtop, all the panes of glass and the mechanisms needed for that glass, the window cranks, the fittings, everything. And he laid it all out on his garage floor, from front to back. And that was a tremendous help for me when I was trying to figure out, one of the passenger door of my wagon. When I went to pick it up the night I brought it home, I thought the window was rolled down. Well, the joke was on me. There was no window, and in fact, the scissors mechanism was jammed all the way at its upper stop, and I couldn't roll it down for the life of me. So that and the two side windows were also missing. Originally from the factory, the wagon came with operable crank windows, but even if you know anything about wagons, it only drops down, less than half what it would if it was a, window off of a sedan or hardtop. His description in laying out the glass and the mechanisms was a huge help for me, especially diving into a door. Now, the wagon isn't my first Try 5. 43 years ago, I bought a 1955 two-door hardtop, street racing vintage, 1970s setup, 12-inch shackles on the rear. It very much a period piece. Of course, I bought it in the 70s. Go figure. Anyway, his YouTube channel has been a great source of inspiration and information. I highly recommend it. And again, that YouTube channel is Restoring Christine, like Christine in the of the movie and novel fame. All right. Anyway, now one of his later videos has been to create a billiard ball shift knob. Now, and I think his is a number 13. So he takes you through the steps of what it took to drill out a regulation billiard ball and set it up to be a shift knob. Now, I did that the same thing, except I took the easy way out, and I bought a regulation billiard ball that had already been drilled and tapped for a shifter, to be a shifter knob. And I don't remember where this one came from, if it was China, eBay, or it was probably Amazon. Now anyway, right after I got my Chevy, adding the 8-ball shift knob had been something I'd wanted going back more than 40 years. And the shift knob on my Chevy actually matched the transmission. It was a Tremec 5-speed shift knob. It was a great size. It felt wonderful in your hand. But anyway, so I replaced, sometime later I replaced I bought an 8-ball shift knob, and it's a legitimate licensed or legitimate billiard ball. It's been drilled and for this insert. And so he shows you how to make one. He picked up a 13 billiard ball, used some flea market or something, and you can do the same thing if you want. In my case, I knew I wanted an 8-ball and found they were widely available. All right, now, so I've put my 8-ball on, and because my recollection is I got my 8-ball from Tamu or Timu, whichever way you want to pronounce it, for like, I don't know, $8-9. Well, anyway, regardless of that, of the price and the source, I put it on, and of course, my shifter already had a jam nut, so you could position the 8-ball or the original in the right position. You want the shift pattern to be, facing the correct way. So instead of just screwing it down tight and letting the logo or whatever's on top of your shift knob, if anything, display in a crooked manner, the jam nut allows you to position the 8-ball or whatever number billiard ball you have as a shift knob, position it in the correct orientation. Well, then a problem showed up, and the 8-ball kept coming loose, and I thought the jam nut was backing off. Well, what was happening was that the jam nut wasn't coming loose. I would tighten the jam nut up. Well, the brass insert in the 8-ball was loose, and so it would get play in it, and so I became really fearful of tightening that jam nut down as much as it needed. If I did that, I was afraid I was going to strip out, that the pressure of the jam nut being tight was going to pull the insert out of the hole in the bottom of the 8-ball. And so from that point forward, I just screwed it down snug. Never tightened it up. I never tightened it up as much as it needed to be to keep it oriented correctly. And of course, when you have an 8-ball shift knob, you want the 8 to be upright. You want to be able to see it, not, cattywampus one way or the other. But also understood that every time you tried to set the jam nut, it was causing the insert in the hole here to get loose. So anyway, I just kept, whenever I drove it, I just would manually turn the shift knob to snug it up and go on about my business. And but as time went on, it became more and more difficult to snug it up, and it was never oriented correctly for the 8 to be. It was always sideways or upside down or whatever. So my wife and I went to the Tri-5 Nationals at the top of August this year. And of course, I was doing a lot of driving, a lot of shifting. And as the weekend wore on, I could feel the shift knob, the insert in the shift knob getting looser and I had more play in it. And at one point, I was afraid I was going to shift to third gear and my fist was going to go on and take the shift knob with it. Well, that didn't happen. But it got mighty loose. And so I kept snugging it back up. When I got home, I decided it was time to do something about my 8-ball shift knob. As much as I liked it, it felt like it was going to become a liability if it completely stripped out and came off the shifter. So I ended up taking the knob off, and actually, I had, while it was still screwed on to the lever, I worked it and finally got it stripped out, pulled off of the brass insert. And there were still some remnants of threads on that were machined inside the 8-ball. So what I did, I took the insert, cleaned it up really good, cleaned out the hole, and then I took clear JB Weld epoxy and very carefully coated the inside of the hole and the outside of the insert and worked it down in there into the hole, and made sure I had enough epoxy that everything got epoxied solid. And so after I let it sit a day or so, then I put it back on the Chevy, and I was able to tighten This time I was able to tighten the jam nut up to keep the ball solid. It doesn't come loose anymore, and the 8 stays in the correct orientation that I want it to. So it cured the problem I'd had. Now, so if you get a shift knob, an 8-ball shift knob, or any other billiard number from one of these vendors, Temu, Alibaba, or whatever it's called, and or eBay or Amazon, just be aware that that insert could come loose. And if this insert comes loose, it's not the end of the world, not by any means. You can run it until till this does come out. When it does come out, you can epoxy it back. And I will tell you, since I epoxied it, it is solid. It is solid. It cured my loose shift knob problem, and it keeps it oriented properly. And so I can, and more importantly, I did not epoxy the threads to the shift lever, so I can loosen the jam nut and screw this off anytime I want. So it was a win-win. Now, speaking of shift knobs, if you're interested in a billiard ball for a shift knob, just be aware these are larger than your standard shift knob. Now, Amazon and eBay, you can get shift knobs of every type of color, material, shape, and again, this is my favorite, but a billiard ball is larger than a standard shifter knob. My first choice for shift knobs was, of course, the 8-ball. Here's my second choice, a single die. Now the problem I had with and I'm not reusing the die, and I'll show you why. All right, there's the hole where the shift lever inserts, and you see these holes around the edge of this collar. There are set screws that are supposed to go in there, and then I don't know if I've got them with me or not. There they are. These are, well, there's the set screws and the Allen wrench, but those are nylon collars. And those nylon collars are supposed to go in here and be space fillers if your shift lever is smaller, to kind of take up the space. And then to keep this thing on the shift lever, you use the Allen the set screws. It's got spots for 3 set screws in this collar, and that's what holds it on. Well, no offense to whoever made these, it's rinky-dink. I'm not interested in having my shift knob held on with set screws. But it does feel good in the hand. In fact, my thoughts were to actually remove this collar and install a brass collar similar to this, to replace this. And at that point, I would consider running the die as my shift knob and giving the 8-ball a break. And that may be a project I'm gonna work on. Now, your 8-ball, if you get an 8-ball commercially manufactured 8-ball, it comes with some adapters for different shift knob threads. You've got I can't tell you which one I ended up using, but you've got 3 different ones for different sizes. And like I said, I can't remember which one I used on mine, but they thread into the bottom of the 8-ball or the billiard ball, and to give you the threads you need. But anyway, and those the adapters have a lip on them, and they thread in. The threads match the insert thread, and you wind up with something that looks like that. So you've got a little bit of a lip here. You can tighten the insert in to keep it, tight in the 8-ball, and then your shift lever screws into this part. No set screws to mess with. So I'm not going to run the die unless I change it, modify it to where it works similar to the 8-ball. All right, now I've seen suppliers say they can supply you with billiard ball shift knobs of any number. So if you don't want the 8-ball, which I did, but if you don't want an 8-ball, you can get something else. All right, just be careful. And if you get a foreign manufactured billiard ball shifter, just be aware of any, really with any shifter, because we don't always know where these things are manufactured or the parts are sourced from. Just be aware you might need to make some repairs to reattach this insert, because that insert gets a lot of torque as you're using it, because you're rowing through the gears. So don't be surprised if at some point it comes loose. Just again, my caveat is to be careful. Do not mess up the ability of these adapters to screw in here. If you're epoxying your insert in, just keep it around the outside edges and be very careful you don't end up ruining the ability of your shift knob to screw onto your shift lever. All right, guys, that's all I've got talking about shift knobs. And in fact, if you're a crafty person, you could make just about anything into a shift knob. I saw one guy that had a beer tap as a shift knob, which had a hard time missing that. It was like yay long. So anyway, be creative and be cool. All right, because whatever you have, it's yours. You can personalize it any way you want. All right, guys, thanks for watching. And if you've got a unique shift knob, send me a picture. Leave a comment down below. And especially if you have any caveats or warnings about making your own shift knob, or how to keep it integral as part of your shifter. All right, that's it. We'll see you next time from the Shade Tree Garage.